Seconds. Lindsey, Rabbie, welcome to ENTV today. Very excited you're here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Well, thanks for being flexible with me. So let's jump into, for those that don't know you in ENTV today, like who are you? What do you do? All those great questions. Let's fill them in before we jump into your story and what you do. So can you give us a bit of context, kind of who you are, what you're up to in the world, what you're most
Yeah,
passionate about, and then let's jump in, please.
amazing. Yeah, my name is Lindsey Rabbie. I'm a coach for women who suffer with anxious thoughts, overwhelm, stress, and really helping them get back on track, getting their lives sorted. I help a lot of women who are just stuck in their brains, overthinking everything, revisiting everything, and really getting back to their life. So I've been coaching for about 3 years now, and it's incredibly powerful work, incredibly rewarding work.
You can tell from your smile. So
Yeah.
they always say your ideal avatar is you 5 or
Yeah.
10 years ago. So how did you come to do this work? What was the impetus for that?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I was a product of my product. I am a product of my product. I kind of was in this stage of my life. I've been a teacher for almost 18 years and a primary school teacher, and was just sort of like, is this it? And not feeling totally fulfilled, really, really struggling with my emotions and not really understanding them, judging myself. I had a lot of really self deprecating, really negative self talk. And somebody introduced me to coaching, and it changed my life. Like it changed the way I view things. It changed my perspective. I mean, personal development, I think, was something I was getting into, and just understanding our minds and how we work and how we operate. And as a Christian, I think that that personal development is something that's sort of like part of that. And yeah, coaching just opened up that avenue in the biggest way for me.
So most rewarding part of your work, specifically, what would it be in working with these women?
Seeing them succeed. Honestly, like, that's so interesting you just asked me that question, because I bumped into an old client just on the weekend, and just gave me the biggest hug, poured her heart out, and just, you changed my life. And it's just like, I didn't do anything, you did it. But just to be part of that process for somebody, and to be their support and with them to walk through that, and for a few years later for them to have that, like, you really guided me, is, I mean, probably the most amazing feeling on the planet, right? And I think that people are so powerful. I think our minds are so powerful. I think we're super capable, more than we even know. And I think that a lot of women suffer almost silently, not realizing that they don't have to. And so I'm really passionate about sort of bringing that to light, and really wanting to support them.
Now you talked about, so you're a Christian. So I'm curious if you're open to talking about that. How do you feel like, do you feel humans do all the work? Does God assist with that? Do you feel like God does some of the work? Like where does a personal responsibility piece lie in your thought?
I mean, we're given free will, right? Isn't that the beauty of life, is that we're given free will, and it's up to us to align ourselves with God's word and what his path is for us. And I think that, we when we align ourselves with who we want to be, when we have that idea of where we're going and who we truly want to be, and we can align that with God's vision of who we are and where we're going, like, you're unstoppable, right? Because I believe that coaching and Christian and my faith go hand in hand. Like, I think that we can call it God, source, whatever. I'm open to all sorts of ideas around it when I'm working with my clients, but I think that having some believing in a higher being, believing in that bigger source, is so powerful. And yeah, I think that when you're aligned with God's vision for your life, there's nothing that can hold you back. So I think that we have free will, but I do believe that his power is amazing.
How do you feel? Do you have any ideas or tips for someone that doesn't know what their life purpose maybe is, and they want that, but they don't, regardless of their beliefs, they just don't have access to it or don't believe they know what it is? What would you suggest?
Dreaming. I think that we live in a society that really wants to give us thoughts, and we kind of get into our ruts and into our paths, and giving yourself the opportunity to think, right? And so for me in my practice, a lot of that comes down to being still. And I mean, for me, that looks like prayer and meditation and breathing, but it can look like just meditation and being still and dreaming a little bit, allowing yourself. But we have, like, in the coaching world, you're not allowed to say I don't know, because your unconscious mind inherently knows and you probably have an idea. And so it's just about dreaming a little bit, and then how can you marry what you are doing with where you want to go, and do those steps kind of fall in line. So I
Do
would say,
you do you take your clients through an intentional, X number of years or weeks down the road? Do you walk them through painting that picture to make it real so they have something to back up and then work towards? Or
I think it depends on the situation. I think sometimes we have to start with sort of like that inner child that needs a bit of healing and support, and understanding that we have to take that person with us. And then, yeah, giving them that a possibility. I really start to paint like a possibility opportunity with them of like what could be. And then that inherently inspires them to take different actions, because they're not sort of so narrow minded that, um, I think we get stuck in a lot of limiting beliefs. I think we create a lot of thoughts around, I'm not a morning person, or I'm bad at math, or I can't do these things. And so when you start to kind of pick apart these stories and these beliefs that we've told ourselves about them ourselves, it naturally unfolds into their own path. And no, there's no set criteria for them, but because they're ultimately in control of everything in coaching. But it's just helping guide and support them.
can you, if you're open, can you go a bit deeper on how do you get them to paint the, ooh, what's possible? How do you get a person to see past those? Is
Yeah.
there an exercise you do? Yeah, please.
I mean, I think the first thing we would do is sort of like elicit some values. So, what is important to you? I go through kind of a 4 pillar exercise where, on any given day or week, like, what are the 4 things that are so integral to your day and like you being your best self, right? So, is it exercise? Is it your faith? Is it your work? What are the 4 things that at the end of the day, if you've eaten well and you've exercised and you feel accomplished at work, like what makes you the best you? And so then from that you can kind of elicit your values and where you align, and then that sort of helps me guide them into like, okay, well, these are probably things that you enjoy doing, and these are probably opportunities. And then um yeah, and then it would kind of be like trying some things on, right? Because like I said, we've created limiting beliefs and stories about ourselves, like I can't do that, or that's not for me. And so it's like, and a bit of an experiment of like, maybe you should try that and not be good at it, or maybe you should, give yourself, it's opening your brain to possibilities.
Uh, do do you think people, to what extent do you think people can truly start over again? Yeah.
Yes. um yeah, I do. I mean, I do. I think that we have such a perspective, and I guess I'm trying to be open to different elements of life that, starting over. Like, I don't think you could or should just walk away from your family and start over again, but I think that mentally we can, right? I think that you can continue to pursue new avenues and pursue new thoughts and perspectives, which would help you start over again, which would kind of renew and change things, right? Like if you've always believed the sky is green, is it possible that you could believe it otherwise? That's just a thought. So I do, without going into faith and religion. I like that part. I think that when we can um, offer people new perspectives and new ideas, yeah, totally.
So in your life, what are you anchoring to that's pulling you forward to keep going, building, achieving? What's on the horizon the next 3 years for you? That's worth getting up every day and going forward.
What's on the horizon? I mean, I feel inspired to be doing the work that I'm doing. This coaching is what lights me up. Like you get off, client wins and you're just like fist pumping. It really lights me up. I think connecting with people is really important to me. And so having authentic connections and conversations are really exciting. So those are kind of the things that light me up and get me up. Supporting people is really cool, right? Like I think we're in a really hurting world. I think people are looking for connection and they're looking for community, they're looking for answers, they're pursuing. And so it's a really cool time to support and offer that. Um, for me, I mean, go big or go home, right? Like my business is building and I see the momentum there, and that's really exciting. Um, hopefully, hopefully moving into more like online courses and full coaching programs and that sort of thing. But I mean, ultimately, just doing what I love every day, right? And then there's that's sort of the business side of it. But I mean, I love personal development, so watching me go through this journey of building a business and learning all these things is so powerful and rewarding too, because there's so much to learn and so many unknowns.
I hear you on that. I want to ask your opinion on, do you agree with the statement that, like kind of like how they say your best life will
Mm.
always involve your bliss points? That's the different verbiage, but how much do you feel of life should be sacrificial for something for a greater good? And how much of life should be you and your bliss? What is your belief on that? Is it on a continuum? Is it all of one and none of the other? What's your thoughts?
I think that when people pursue bliss, they get disappointed. I think that when we can really appreciate what is as good and positive and purposeful and joyful, we can find real joy in it. I am a firm believer in discipline and personal responsibility. So
I can tell
I think that
you're highly conscientious, I would assume, on the five
I
psychology.
I mean, it's important, right? I mean, so many of us
Oh,
are wandering around sort of like blaming circumstances and I just think that while there are things that happen and situations, like it's so important for us. I get so much out of taking personal responsibility, right? It's so validating. So honestly, like I kind of want to say 50-50. Like I do really think that life is 50-50, and I think that you have to have the negative in order to have the positive. And I actually don't want to categorize personal responsibility or discipline as negative, because I think it's really positive. And I think that when you are disciplined and you achieve a goal, or you are disciplined and reap benefits and results from those things, it's like, oh, this is the joy. That's what I wanted. So I don't see them as a negative. Difficult, sure, but not necessarily negative.
I was listening to a psychologist a couple of weeks ago, and he was famous Canadian when he was saying, human beings are designed to carry heavy loads and go uphill. We're not designed to walk downhill, run downhill. We're designed to climb and ascend and to pick up heavy things and go forward or go up. And I
Yeah.
was like, that's interesting. Like we're physiologically made for that.
Yeah, I think that's really fascinating. I think we're not made to do a lot of the things we do now. We're not made to have the modern day conveniences that we think are awesome and convenient, and some of them are. But, you know, some of them are detrimental. We could go really deep there, Amos.
Yeah, we could. We could. So when your clients come to you and they're lost, what's the first thing you do with them? They feel lost.
I think the first thing would be offering compassion. I think that a lot of people are really hard on themselves, and we're really good at judging ourselves. And so I think one of the hardest things for humans to learn, particularly people who are, you know, wanting to better themselves and pursuing greatness, I think that celebrating who we are and where we're at is a really big part of the process. And learning to not judge. And so I think that I would offer them a lot of compassion.
How do you celebrate who you are when you also see your clear deficits?
I was just having this conversation, so I'm so glad. I don't think they have to be mutually exclusive. I think we can love who we are and want better, right? Like, we would never, you know, a baby learning to crawl or a kid on a bike, we would never be like, you don't know how to bike yet. What's wrong with you? Right? Like, we're so proud of them for walking, and we're super excited that they're going to learn to bike. So I just think that offering that idea of like, what you're doing right now is awesome and it's cool to want better. And so when we allow ourselves that compassion and non-judgment, I think it's super cool.
Parents growing up, did you have good parents growing up, or do you learn this the hard way?
I had great parents. I think everybody learns the good lessons the hard way. But I had great parents, yeah, and they're still married and loving life. I had a great family, but yeah, I think everyone learns the really good ones the hard way for sure. And like I said, I'm a product of my product, right? Like, you know, I'm not remiss of any of these negative thoughts. I had to work through them and I had to figure them out. And like, I got to a point in my life where you have to kind of want more and want better. And I'm so grateful for that point. And I am so grateful for my clients who want that too.
Fun,
Yeah.
new possibilities.
Yeah. I think we limit ourselves. Um, I think we don't dream anymore. Like, we're at, we don't dream enough anymore. We look at our phones and we dream about what other people have, but we don't see it as an opportunity and a possibility for us. And I'm not even talking big yachts and whatever. I'm talking happiness and simple joys. And so I think that when we can allow ourselves to be present in what we have and finding true gratitude, like, not the, but you have this and you have that, it's totally fine, right? Like, actually genuinely feeling grateful for where you are and the things that you have. Um, is where you take action from, right? Then you're more inspired to go forward, and it's not such nitty gritty discipline.
I tend to uh, default to that, like push, push, push,
Yeah,
force, and starting to learn to stay in that play mode, giving thanks, joyful. Yeah.
it's
So
fascinating how adults don't play anymore, and I agree. I find that that's a really difficult piece because we're not supposed to, or it's silly. um but I mean, that's where you come back to being open to possibilities and ideas. And like I said, we come back to, like, we're not made to work 24/7. We're not made to work as hard as we sometimes are. So
yeah, it burns me out when I've done it. I got to incorporate play and fun and laughter, or else it's just a dismal.
well,
Uh,
and I think that that's often a misconception, is that it's not always a choice. I don't want to come on here and think people think that daisies and roses, like, life is hard and life is real and there are big circumstances, but I do think it is up to us to find and pursue those things, and that's a lot of where my faith plays into it, because God's called us to have a life of joy and peace. And so I get to really rely on that. When you're in the depths of these thoughts and circumstances and things, I can really rely on that as well, this is my calling. Like, this is what we needed to do. Um, and I find that super, super helpful.
No, sounds like it gives you a bedrock you can build upon. Yeah,
Yeah, something to put your feet on.
I can appreciate that. Well, Lindsay, anything else you want to chat about do you have any product launches? Have you written a book? You're talking about courses. What's going on?
Um, no, I have not written a book yet. Sometimes I dream about it though. I think maybe. Um, yeah, lots of new coming. Just opening up more time for clients. I'm really trying to broaden, like I said, I'm working towards a group membership program. So just really opening up where people, we're building a community, right? Like I really just want genuine, authentic community, because like I said, I think people are hurting. I think they want to be heard, and giving people safe space to communicate is a huge part of the healing process. So that's what I'm working on immediately, is creating a space for people to come and be part of a community. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, it sounds like they're probably in good hands if they're working with you. So
Thank you.
kudos to you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right. Well, thanks for being on ENTV today. Members of ENTV today, if what Lindsay is saying to you is hitting you, then reach out to her. She'd likely love to connect with you. Drop any links, Lindsay, you have to anything that's up and coming, you have currently, you can always come back and do it too.
Awesome.
Thanks for being on today and being flexible and rolling with it. I really appreciate that.
No, I love that. That's it. Thanks, Amos. This is a great.
All
Yeah.
right, we'll end it here. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Have a great day.